I'm not just a scorer. I can score whenever I want to. I can shoot the toughest of toughest shots if I wanted to, and nobody's ever going to say anything. I want to get everybody involved. I want to get guys in their spots. And when it's my time, you'll know that it's my time. But until then, we're going to pass the ball to the open man, get my guys some jumpers, get them out in transition, and we're going to keep winning.
The Golden State Warriors are storming across the league. With Draymond Green's night-night closing out the Knicks, they've now won 14 of their last 15 games and show no signs of slowing down. Is this the Jimmy effect, or is there something else going on? Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Switch Culture. At the moment, there's nothing scarier than the current version of the Warriors. This is a team that has 3 guys that can give you 30 on any given night. To make matters worse, they're able to beat teams across the spectrum without having to. They're still rehabbing Kuminga as he's limited to 20 minutes in each of his last 2 games. Brandon Podziemski is out with injury, and we have yet to see Jimmy turn into Red Hulk. Something we know will happen at some point this season. What we have seen, however, is Stephen Curry clearly being the offensive juggernaut he's always been, showing you that he's still capable, and as long as that's the case, he can still put on the greatest show on earth. Now, if you watched the game, you likely are wondering about a few things that took place. One of them being Quentin Post coming off the bench and Guy Santos in the starting lineup. While it isn't a cause for concern, we're going to talk about how it made sense for this game. Finally, some war of words becomes physical as Draymond Green bullies Towns after some heated comments about Towns missing the last game. Let's not forget Jimmy. There's clearly a lot left on the table that we haven't seen yet from Golden State, and the rest of the schedule is set to be difficult. 15 games left to go, and only 11 needed to get to 50 wins. Can they do it? We'll find out. Before that, however, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Switch Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. Now get ready. You're about to get So what's the story behind last night's game? First up, both teams had a jiggle in their starting lineups, and though the 2 teams recently played each other, tonight's game was a bit different. In the last game, the Warriors went with Curry, Podziemski, Moody, Butler, and Green. The Knicks had a lineup of Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Robinson. The Warriors were missing Kuminga and the Knicks were missing Cat. Anunoby and Brunson did their best, but by the end of the night, they succumbed to the chef and the butler. We now know that Karl was out of town due to the death of a close friend of his and his girlfriend. This is important because prior to this information becoming public, Draymond Green had some words for Towns for missing that last game. On Draymond's podcast, he said this about what seemed like Towns ducking smoke.
You know, some would say he didn't play because Jimmy was in the building. I don't know.
It's like that?
But yeah, they said Cat ain't play because Jimmy came into town. And, you know, him and Jimmy had the infamous practice in Minnesota.
And just like that, Draymond's villain arc continues. So, Draymond worded it as though this was what was being said. That infamous practice at Minnesota where Jimmy Butler called out Towns and Wiggins after taking third stringers and mopping the floor with those 2 starters among others. So Draymond's third-handed insinuation has some background. In a follow-up interview, Draymond was asked about his comments, in which he clarified what he said and reaffirmed it as third-hand info.
Did you see your reaction today to your comments about Cat?
No.
Are you aware of what the circumstances were?
No. What's the circumstance?
Apparently he said he was at a funeral for a family friend.
Oh, man, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. But my comments that I made was, what I heard was this. I do, send my well wishes to him and his family.
Towns responded to Draymond's comments verbally and had this to say. I choose to approach that with love and not hate. That's all I really care about. I hope no one has to go through what I went through and those kids, and what those kids had to go through. Losing a parent is tough. Towns became the victim as this further solidified Draymond as public enemy number 1. This set the stage for the next matchup, something which would play out when the two would eventually meet. Fast forward to last night's game, and this is what happened. Steve Kerr took Quentin Post out of the starting lineup and instead inserted Guy Santos. With Towns' return, this put Draymond at the 5, matching up directly with Cat. So did Steve Kerr try to fuel a narrative by matching up Draymond with Towns? Perhaps, perhaps not. Towns is primarily an offensive player. The Warriors would primarily be weak at the 5. Their toughest defender in that position is Draymond Green, and so in order to keep Towns in check, Steve didn't have much of a choice. As great as Post has been playing, Towns is superior to Post in almost every metric. Defensively, Post might have the edge, but Towns' ability to drive and space the floor puts him as one of the best big men in the league. The last thing you need is him going off and giving the Warriors 40, or even worse. The reason for choosing Santos was simple. Kerr has exhausted options with Buddy in the starting lineup, and he's been much more productive off the bench. On top of that, Pods was also missing. Otherwise, we would have seen Buddy start as the 2 guard and Moody shift to the 3, Butler 4 and Green 5. So why not Kuminga? This is actually pretty telling about what we can expect over the next few weeks. Even though JK is on a minutes restriction, there's nothing that would preclude him from being in the starting lineup outside of fit and spacing. Santos is considered a better shooter, which helps provide the spacing that Kerr is looking for. This means that it is unlikely we'll see Kuminga in the starting lineup for the rest of the season and will likely be the Warriors' 6th man. That could lead to its own offseason woes, but for now, it seems Kerr is going to have JK play behind Jimmy. Not a bad thing if you want to maximize the team's potential, but a 6th man role for JK doesn't preclude him from being a significant part of this team possibly winning a championship. Both Andre Iguodala and Jordan Poole thrived in similar roles, and their contribution was never considered marginal by any means. Now, from a scoring perspective, Steph Curry led the team with 28 points. Not his most efficient night, as it took him 20 shots to get there, but both teams were tough defensively. Regardless, some players are going to get theirs, and in the case of the Warriors, Steph Curry is that dude. Deuce McBride started for Jalen Brunson, and as a very tenacious defender, took his job guarding Curry pretty seriously. While he was drafted for his ability on that end of the floor, he's developed fairly well offensively and managed to drop 19 points. A staple of the 2021 draft class, he was selected in the 2nd round, well after the Warriors' starting shooting guard, who's looking more and more like he's locked down his position, Moses Moody. This was another good night for Moody, as he continues to do a phenomenal job both as a shooter and as a point of attack defender. On one end of the floor, he was forcing opponents to take tough shots as he did here, knowing there's no paint protection down low, so he slides his feet to stay ahead of Bridges, locking him into no man's land where he either contends with 3 defenders or a tough contested shot in the mid-range. With 18 points on 7 of 14 from the field and 4 of 8 from 3 to go with 2 steals, he's locked into his role and has been steadily improving. He's now up to 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists in his last 5 games. Over time, expect him to play even better as he gets more comfortable slotting in between Steph and Jimmy. But Moody wasn't the only one giving the Knicks players the hard time. Both Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler gave Cat the business, with Butler getting the matchup here and attacking him off the drive. This ended up with Butler heading to the line for free throws. Draymond especially went hard after Towns, not only attacking him but getting Towns into foul trouble by the 2nd quarter. Early on in the 2nd quarter, Green is aware that Towns already has 2 fouls. He plays Towns up close, locking him up and forcing a turnover on the perimeter. Draymond knows without Brunson that Towns is the biggest threat on the Knicks. If they can get into his head and shut him down, this makes it a much easier game. This next play is classic Draymond. Towns doesn't have the game IQ to try it with the Warriors' antagonizer, but that didn't stop him from intervening. Jimmy calls for the screen and Draymond looks to oblige. He makes his move only for Towns to try to undercut him, but instead of fighting through it, Dre sells the contact and the refs blow the whistle. To add insult to injury, as soon as the refs stopped the play, Draymond pointed to the bench. Knowing it was Towns' 3rd foul, this was a huge deal for the Warriors as there was still over 8 minutes left in the first half. Towns was furious, of course, and argued the call, albeit unsuccessfully, as the Knicks had already used and lost their coach's challenge. Towns would have to sit the entire remainder of the 2nd quarter, forcing the Knicks to have to find their offense elsewhere. But that clip of Draymond sending Towns to the bench is akin to that of a father sending his petulant child into a timeout. As if that wasn't bad enough, what made this all the worse for Towns is that after all that, With 25 seconds left in the game, Draymond gets Towns up top and drives hard to the basket to finish on top of Towns' head, putting the Warriors up by 6, and then gives him the night-night. The villain wins this one. Look, every yin needs its yang, and every righteous character needs its villain. Draymond Green, after pouring in 23 points last game, gets a clutch bucket for the Warriors and sends Karl Anthony home in dysfunctional defeat. The Warriors right now can't lose. Despite all their winning, however, it seems Minnesota is right on their heels. The Houston Rockets as well have been winning too, so all these wins, yet Golden State has not been getting any separation. Their only sliver of light is the Lakers tumbling down the standings due to the absence of LeBron James. But even then, the Warriors are 3.5 games back of the 2nd seed and only 2 games back of the 5th. Something has got to give. The Nuggets lost the season series to the Wizards, giving hope that the Warriors might be able to take them down. But with a back-to-back against the Bucks right after, things could get ugly. Beyond that, they get the Lakers and Nuggets again on another back-to-back with Houston right after. Obviously, these are some tough games ahead, but if they split these tough games and take care of business elsewhere, that's a 12-3 record to finish the season. Things just got really interesting, so make sure you don't miss any of this. Post your thoughts in the comments below and let me know how you feel about the potential lineups going forward, that is, Kerr's likely decision to have JK off the bench. I read all your comments, so I saw some really good lineup suggestions last time. Also, be sure to let me know what your predictions are for the rest of the season. Just be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swish!